Welcome to the Locker Room Show. I'm Trevor Turner, joined by Mitch Rupert of the Williamsport Sun-Gazette. Mitch, what's going on?
Not much, Trevor. How you doing?
I'm doing good, partner. How about those South Williamsport Mountaineers?
Boy, did they make me eat my crow last week, and I can't tell you, I don't know that I've ever been more happy to do that. Even as a Bloomsburg High School graduate, I could not believe what they did to the Bloomsburg Panthers, and couldn't be happier for Chris Eisworth and that whole group for what they've accomplished this year.
Speaking of Chris Eisworth, he joins the show at 4:15. They're gearing up for now a district championship game. It's really unbelievable what they've done in South Williamsport. It's been since 1999 since they've won a playoff game, but they're right here. They've dominated all year, only one loss on the season. Brandon Stange becomes the program's all-time leading rusher. And I'm telling you, I just look at this team, and to me, Mitch, I just see a team that has so many seniors that things just go right from a mental standpoint more than they go wrong. It just goes to show what the power of seniority will do for a football team.
Yeah, and I think that you can kind of equate them to what Central Columbia did this year, because Central Columbia is in that same boat. They've been building for this year for 3 years. The one thing I don't think Central Columbia ever figured out was how to close out a football game, and that was a really talented football team, but they just never quite figured out how to close out, how to win football games. South Williamsport has clearly done that. They've won 10 games this year. They beat Bloomsburg twice, which those two victories look so much more impressive now, 11, 12 weeks into the season. They figured it out. They figured out what they need to do to win football games, and they're executing it.
There's a couple truths around District 4. Wrestling's going to be strong. CI is going to have a good basketball program in Loyalsock. And in District 4 Single A, Southern Columbia is going to come out of it and go to the state tournament. Last week, though, they play a Lion Mountain team, and they're losing. And they're losing by multiple scores. Now, Southern comes back and eventually wins, but what did you make of all that? I'm sure you had more conversations with some of your friends at the Daily Item who saw that a little bit more closely. I think John Girardi was actually on the game. What was that all about with Lion Mountain and Southern Columbia last week?
It sounds like if you just looking at the numbers, Lion Mountain threw for 265 yards last week, and that's how teams have competed with Southern Columbia this year. You look at Mount Carmel, who was within a couple scores, only threw for 150 yards, but that's still more than most people throw for. Bloomsburg threw for 250 yards and threw the ball 52 times. Central Columbia, 195 yards, and they threw it 38 times. 7 times this year, teams have thrown at least 20 passes against Southern Columbia because that's how you beat them. You have to spread them out and negate what they can do with their 4-4 defense and how they're physical up front and how they fill holes. That's what I think South Williamsport's going to have to do this week somehow. They obviously don't necessarily want to throw it 30 times, but they're going to have to throw it a little bit just to spread out that Southern Columbia defense.
Yeah, because this is a South Williamsport team. They pound the rock. It's Bragalone, Stange, and Bartholomew. That's what they do. But not a whole lot of people talk about it. Their quarterback's really good. Tyler House can really throw. A little inconsistent, but has a strong arm, good footwork. And I think Riley Hengler's one of the area's more underrated receivers. I really wonder if you're right and if you're onto something that they might throw the ball more. And if they don't, is there any way with their current identity of just going Stange up the middle, Bartholomew on the edge, is there any way that philosophy can beat these Tigers?
Well, the one thing that South Williamsport I think has going for it is they have 3 legitimate runners in their backfield that can kind of change the pace of the game. It's not constantly one guy up the middle off tackle. It's 3 guys that you have to worry about, and all 3 bring something different to that South Williamsport offense. I look at teams that Southern Columbia has played in the past. You look at a Bellwood Antis team that had Josh Kleinfelter, who folks here in Williamsport know all about. He's Lycoming's leading rusher of all time. They played Bellwood Antis, I think 2005 or so, 2006, in the East Final. And Kleinfelter was a 2,000-yard rusher who was held to 40 yards that game. And that's because Southern Columbia can key in on that one runner. They can focus on that one runner and shut them down. With South Williamsport's attack, and you have those 3 guys, that gives you a little different dynamic than just your regular I-formation run game. And then, like you said, Trevor, Tyler House has the ability to throw the football when he has to. He throws a really nice ball. He's smart with the football. He gives them that other dimension that they need just for that threat of the pass in their back of their mind.
I think play action is going to be a huge part of this football game, especially if South Williamsport can hang with these guys. Montoursville plays a game that I had Mark Musino on Tuesday say it was as fun as he's had being around a high school football game since when he played. So you're going back some years here. But, Montoursville will have this great back-and-forth affair with Lewisburg under the lights in Bucknell on Saturday night. Now they face a Mount Carmel team that I know last week you weren't all too crazy about. They beat Central Columbia, and it looks like now in the AA bracket, they're in the semifinals. Montoursville and Mount Carmel have a real barn burner schedule for Montoursville on Friday night.
This game this week is so much fun, and I've been arguing with Chris Massey all week. I said, the guy who covered the first Montoursville-Mount Carmel game should get to cover this Montoursville-Mount Carmel game, and that's me. and that's where I should be. I'm going to be at South Williamsport in Southern Columbia, and I'm looking forward to that as well. But I'm really intrigued by this game this week because you have the Luke Klingerman factor for Mount Carmel, who ran for a Mount Carmel record 350-some yards against Montoursville last time. And then last week, Mount Carmel put 6'4", 280-pound Eric Juraski in the backfield as a fullback against Central Columbia, and they just pound the football with him. That's something we haven't seen all year. He was supposed to be a tight end, defensive end. The kid's going to Northwestern. He's an obvious football talent. But that's just something we didn't see in this first matchup, and you wonder how that's going to play into this matchup. And this game is going to be so much fun because you have a Montoursville team clicking on all cylinders and a Mount Carmel team that looks like it's gotten healthy. Zach Wasilewski seems like he's doing okay. Klingerman's okay. Juraski's okay. I mean, this game is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, Mount Carmel, you mentioned Juraski at the end. If there's one big-time Division I prospect in District 4 this year, it's him. He's committed to Northwestern already, 3-star recruit nationally. Is he someone that Montoursville on offense has to be worried about?
The obvious answer is yes, but they seemed to handle him pretty well last time. The week before the first Montoursville game, Juraski didn't play against Loyalsock. He came out and played against Montoursville, had a back injury of some kind. I'm guessing he probably wasn't 100%, but Montoursville was able to seal the edge. Griffin Dunn had 200 yards rushing from his quarterback spot in that game, and they were able to seal the edge where Juraski's going to play on that defensive end spot. I don't know if they ran away. I can't remember without looking at my notes if they ran away from him or they ran at him, but they were able to control the line of scrimmage. Juraski is still somebody you have to worry about, but you almost worry about him more offensively if they're going to put him in that fullback role and run in front of Luke Klingerman than you do about defensively because you know the scheme. You can block that 5-2 scheme if you know it. You can combo block on Juraski if you have to, but that means you're going to have to be able to hold up one-on-one on the other guys.
With Mitch Rupert of the Williamsport Sun-Gazette, I'm Trevor Turner here on the Locker Room Show. I don't think there's any doubt about it. 4 teams left in AA: Athens, Danville, Mount Carmel, Montoursville. Warriors have as good a chance as anybody else in the district, and I think if you're a Montoursville booster, fan, parent, family member, whatever, you really have to be excited about this football team because you could very well be looking at a District 4 champion. Just have to win the football games, Mitch.
This is my concern for the Montoursville-Mount Carmel winner, whoever it is. Look at what Danville's done. They played a depleted Loyalsock team last week that is just starving from injuries. Bobby Oler went down. Mike Dougherty was down for a while. Jimmy Webb is down. Kyle Datris didn't play last week. That was not a great Loyalsock team that Danville played. And now they're playing an Athens team that is not a great Northern Tier team. We've seen better teams come out of Northern Tier than this Athens team. Yeah. Absolutely, the Tawandas of the world. So I'm not saying that Danville has gotten a bye into the finals, but their starters probably aren't going to have to play a full 48 minutes this week. And then you look at the battle that if Montoursville wins Friday night, look at the 2 battles Montoursville's going to have to play just to get to the district final. So how beat up are the teams from that other side of the bracket going to be when they get into the district final?
And we kind of talked about this when it was hockey season, when the Pens and Flyers had that. If you're a Flyers fan like I am and like you are, Mitch, that was just, it was great TV. Both teams just beat each other up for 5-6 games. But, we said before the series even started, whoever comes out of this thing is going to be so beat up that there's no way they're going to challenge in the rounds moving forward. Mount Carmel might find themselves in a similar situation. Speaking of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, let's transition over to the NFL. Michael Vick goes down with a concussion. He's out. Nick Foles gets the start in Philadelphia. In Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger has a separated shoulder. He's in so much pain he can't play. Byron Leftwich gets the start in the western side of the state. Who does this hurt more, Philadelphia or Pittsburgh?
I think without a doubt it hurts the Steelers more. You look at Michael Vick, he's really been struggling anyway. He hasn't played bad quarterback. He really hasn't turned the ball over egregiously since the first couple weeks of the season. but things just haven't clicked for the Eagles offense. You look at Ben Roethlisberger, he's the cog that makes that offense work, because not only can he throw the football, but he's so tough, he's mobile in the backfield, he's not super athletic like Michael Vick, but he moves around well enough to get away from pressure. He can slip out of a tackle. Can Byron Leftwich do that? I mean, Byron Leftwich used to be able to move around a little bit back when he was at Marshall, but not in many years has he been able to do that. I mean, he's basically a statue back there. And with Willie Colon on that offensive line, the human holding penalty, you just don't know how that offense is going to, ratchet up. And they're banged up in the running game. And, there's so many more questions around that Steelers offense than I think the Eagles offense.
To be fair, Mitch, Willie Colon's actually, ever since that Eagles game, he's picked it up and actually has been a big reason why the running game's been able to sort of come alive a little bit, even though it struggled against Kansas City. I'm with you. I think Ben Roethlisberger hurts more, and I'll put it this way. I think if you went to any year in Ben Roethlisberger's career, stretching all the way back to his rookie season in 2004, so you're looking at 9 years of pro football, I don't think any year the Pittsburgh Steelers would have missed him more than this one. They've become more reliant on him than in any year in past. The biggest reason why? The defense isn't there anymore. In his rookie season, when the Steelers went 15-1 and made the AFC Championship game, that defense was their prime weapon. They had Willie Parker, yes. They had Jerome Bettis. They had some good wide receivers. But that wasn't a dynamic offense. It was an offense that dinked and dunked its way down the field and got short fields because the defense was the weapon that set them up. The Pittsburgh Steelers have the fewest turnovers in the NFL over the last season and a half. They're not setting their offense up anymore. They're relying on Ben working them all the way down the field. From the 20-yard line onwards, they're scoring more long drives than anybody else in football. You need your starting quarterback for that. I think this hurts the Pittsburgh Steelers incredibly. Now, the one saving grace in it is that you have essentially two tough games for the rest of the schedule, the two Baltimore games. Everyone else is a pretty beatable football team. The problem is, though, with Roethlisberger out, Pittsburgh's a beatable football team as well, Mitch.
Yeah, they really are. And you know what, Trevor? You described, the loss of Roethlisberger better than I could. Think about his rookie year when they went 15-1. When they won their first Super Bowl with him. Who threw the biggest pass in that Super Bowl game?
Randall L.
Exactly. Roethlisberger was a game manager at that point of his career, and he did it really, really well. When it came time for them to win their second Super Bowl, he was a guy who could win you a football game. They've never asked him to win a football game until the last, 2, 3, 4 years or so, where they said, okay, at certain times, you need to go out there, throw the football, and win us a football game. And Roethlisberger is able to do that now. I don't know if you want to throw that on Byron Leftwich's shoulders. I mean, or Charlie Batch, whoever was in there in the last couple of years. You don't want to throw that on those guys.
My question is this, and I've asked this. I said, why not give, Charlie Batch a shot? And people have said he's too old. To which I ask, why is he on the team then if he's too old? Honest question. If he's too old to play, why don't you have a young developmental guy to plug in that spot? I get that he's from Pittsburgh. He's a hometown guy. He's a fan favorite, good locker room veteran. But that's what guys like Deuce Staley are for the Eagles. They're quality control guys. Why are you going to have a guy on the roster if he's too old to play football?
Well, look what Charlie Batch has done over the last 2 or 3 years. When Roethlisberger's been knocked out of a game or, couldn't go 1 week, he's been the game manager. And Charlie Batch does that pretty well. I mean, he doesn't have probably the arm strength anymore to make that throw downfield. That's probably why you're going with Byron Leftwich, because if you go with Charlie Batch, you might lose the impact that Mike Wallace can have on your football team. So I'm guessing, without being in the meeting room, that's my guess as to why they're going with Leftwich over Batch.
Meanwhile, for Philadelphia, put the tin foil on your head. I think Andy Reid maybe. I hate to make light of a concussion here, but I do sense that with the Eagles now 3-6, reeling, we all knew Andy Reid had one last card in the deck to play, one last trump card, that ace of spades, if you will, and that was going from Vick to Foles. And everybody knows when it's a young quarterback starting, pressure is taken off the coach. Even in a situation like this, where the Philadelphia Eagles have been told 8-8's not good enough, Andy Reid, 8-8's not good enough. Well, guess what? 8-8 with Nick Foles looks a lot better than 8-8 with Michael Vick. This is a very easy way for Andy Andy Reid to go from Vick to Foles without creating a quarterback controversy, and I wonder if that's exactly what we see.
And this is the way that almost Andy Reid needed it to happen, because he wasn't going to go to this until they were completely eliminated from the playoff contention. And what's that going to be with 2-3 weeks left in the season, with as bad as the NFC East is at this point? That doesn't give you enough time to really evaluate what Nick Foles is. Here you're getting almost half the season to evaluate what Nick Foles is and who he is as a quarterback. And this is a great opportunity for Foles. This is a great opportunity for Andy Reid, the great quarterback coach that he supposedly is, to really see what he has and see if Nick Foles is the future of this franchise.
To me, I just say it. They have 8 games. I mean, what do they have? 7 games left in the season. They're not making the playoffs. They have to basically run the table. That's not happening. They haven't even looked good in a game yet this year. It's a bad football team. There's no two ways about it. I say they're playing for next year. The problem is you have a head coach right now who's very much playing for this season because he doesn't want to get fired. He's going to get fired, though, and I think for the long-term good of the franchise, Nick Foles is your guy. But obviously there's a lot of conflict of interest here, so it's going to be very interesting looking forward. We're going to have to step out, take a break here, but when we come back, Chris Eisworth, head coach of the South Williamsport Mountaineers, joins us here on the Locker Room Show. With Mitch Rupert of the Williamsport Sun-Gazette, I'm Trevor Turner. This is ESPN Radio Williamsport.